All right, ladies and gentlemen, my name is JC Rangel, and I'm going to be breaking down the Experior opportunity, and I'm going to be comparing it to another team building insurance company out there. I'm not going to mention the company's name. It's a good company. It's going to be known for today's purposes as Agency G. Okay. And there's some pros and cons to both companies, but I want to do the breakdown because lately we've been attracting a lot of people from a lot of different companies, including this particular agency. And instead of having to break down the differences on a phone call, where number one, it's time consuming, but it's also no visuals, I figured I would do this instead. So let's get started. So, first and foremost, Agency G, let's talk about the contract levels, their starting levels, their ranks, and let's look at ours as well. So, this particular company starts their new agents off at a 30% contract. Uh, Disregard the bonus points, but these are the qualifications here. So this is some of the qualifications I saw from one of their compensation plan documents. But nonetheless, they start their people off at 35% contracts. I heard sometimes as low as 25. I don't know if that's the case, but it doesn't matter. 30% is fine. Then you get to field associate as a first promotion, 45%. And as you can see, their top position of executive marketing director, according to the document that we saw, is 80%, right? Marketing director, 60% is 45,000 points plus 5 licensed agents in 3 months. Executive marketing director, the top position at 80%, as you can see, the requirements are here in the bottom, which I have another slide that will get into that here. But I want you to pay attention to the 80%. That 80% is very important because here's what happens. This is Experior's compensation plan. We do not start our people off at 30% contracts. You just got licensed. You start with our company at 70% out the gate. Right away, day one, brand new licensed person, 70%. Now, our second rank is 85%. Now, that's very important. Remember, the top rank over here at executive marketing director is 80%. Our second rank is 80%. You could get there off your own efforts, off your own pin. You do not need to even build a team to get there if you do not want to. I'm going to break down what that looks like. Senior executive director pays 120%. That's the top position. We're going to get into the requirements to get to these ranks as well. This next part, ladies and gentlemen, is one of the reasons why we call it the tribrid model. Experior has taken the best of all worlds, the best of the captive model, the independent IMO model, and the team building model. See, when you've got Agency G, for example, with these types of contracts, you know who you're not going to attract? You're not going to attract the big producer that works for an IMO, a direct to carrier IMO, a guy or girl that says, listen, I just want to close business. I don't care about building a team. I care only about selling, and I want an aggressive contract to do so. Well, that guy's not going to come and start at 30%. Even if you grandfather him 3, 4 levels up at 60%, he's already used to 80 to 120% contract. So what we say is, come on in here. First of all, not only can he start at 70% and work his way all the way up to 130, if he already has a 100% contract, we can honor that 100% contract day one. So he could come in here at 100%. And guess what? Work your way up to 107, 115, all the way to 130% off your own pin. Now, I don't know about you, but I love the idea of not only attracting the people that want to be team builders. Some of these guys that are writing a bunch of business, they're calling leads, they're working referrals, they're helping 10, 20, 30, 40 customers per month. Why would I turn that person away? The answer for me is I wouldn't. What if I build an agency that has a bunch of team builders, but at the same time, we've got 100 or 200 big personal producers that you're overriding? That's a huge deal, ladies and gentlemen. So this is one of the first signs of us being a tribrid model. The team building companies, there's 4 big ones that come to mind. A.L. Williams started the first one. All of these companies have, in my opinion, a 50-year-old philosophy. Just recruit and sell to the new recruit, which you should do that. But I don't believe that should be the only model. Matter of fact, some of those companies don't believe in recruiting licensed agents. So anyways, you have the path to get up to 130% contract. Now, this is Agency G. These are the requirements to get to their 80% contract level. 150 points in a 6 month period, or 240,000 points in a 12-month period. Half of the net points must be personal. You need to promote one marketing director, and you need to have 12 licensed agents and $100,000 in income. Fair enough. What does it take with us to get to 85%? It takes 8,000 in personal settled premium over a 3 month period. Instead of 150,000 in 6 months, it takes 8,000 in settled premium over 3 months, or 16,000 lifetime. You get to a bigger contract than Agencies G top comp line. Okay. And as you can see on the right side, you see how you rank up with a team. On the left side of the screen, you see how you rank up off your personal production. Once again, there's two paths to go up to the top comp, and that is team building or personal production. In the middle, you see the generational overrides. Once you get to executive director with Experior, you have 7 generations of overrides. So even if you promote other executive directors, guess what? You still override them even though you're on the same contract level. That's very important. But in fairness, the other company has this as well. Okay. The difference for me is the following. If I've got people at 70% contracts, 85 and 100% contracts and above, the bottom doesn't fall off. I'm going to repeat that. The bottom doesn't fall off. When somebody's on a 30%, 45%, 50% contracts, here's a bottom line. 95% of people are going to be at 50%, 45, and 30%. That's 19 out of 20 people won't ever even hit the 60% mark. What does that do? That makes them vulnerable. Other companies, a direct to carrier IMO, will come and say, listen, you're not building a team. You haven't had success building the team anyways. Why are you getting paid 30%? Why are you getting paid 45%? Why don't you just come over? We'll give you a 90% contract, 80% contract, day one, right business. That's what you're doing anyways. So the bottom is falling off. So what happens is when we've got Experior has a 70% contracts minimum, and anybody could go to 85%. You just need like 4 or 5 customers. The bottom doesn't fall off. So here's what happens. Even though we both have generational overrides, I'm not replacing 90% of people every 30 to 60 days. They're not getting poached by other companies because of that reason. So again, we have the option to go up with team building and the option to go up without team building on your personal contract. None of these team building companies have that option to get that high and to even rank up unless you successfully build a team. And I think that in 2026, that's a very, very big deal. Now, this is Experior's total ownership compensation plan generation. So you start off at 14%, kind of like you saw here, right? See the yellow bar in the middle, 14% first generation, 7% second generation, but you've got bonuses as well. So first generation, 14%. You could get an additional 6% bonus points. So you could be a total of 20% on your first generation executive directors. Excuse me. Then you've got second generation, 7%. You could pick up an additional 3% in bonuses for a total of 10%, and so on and so forth through 7 generations. So as you can see, our payout, ladies and gentlemen, is between 158% and 170% total payout in the grid. Now, this is Agency G's payout. 15% first generation with a 3% potential bonus, 18% total. 7% with a 2% potential bonus, 9% total, and so on and so forth. And in fairness, if you look at Agency G, on the deeper levels, they make a little bit more, right? Look at the deeper levels, right? They do make a little bit more. Once again, though, the bottom is falling off. It is significantly higher to get there. It is significantly higher to retain them. So both companies have their merit at the end of the day, but I think it's a significant difference when you've got people starting at 70% contracts and above. That's a big, big deal. Now, this is a compensation example. I took this same example from that particular company's examples, right? I did not want to make my own example because people might criticize and say, well, you put a favorable example for you. So I didn't do that. I said, this is an example that they use very often. I will use the exact same example. So this is Agency G's example. you're helping a family put $500 per way away. Let's say the father and the mother have a policy, one of the two kids have a policy. $500 per month is what this company is putting away. As a new associate, they didn't do the example on a 30% contract. They did it on their 45% contract. That's fair. I'm going to do mine at the basic 70% at the smallest contract. I'm going to be as fair as possible. So the new associate made $2,700. As you can see, their senior associate would make 3,000 and so on and so forth. As an executive marketing director at your 80% plus a 5% bonus, they're assuming you're catching the 5% bonus. That's fine. We'll give it to them. It's $5,100. So let's say on the right side, you are an EMD, okay, and you help one household per week. As an EMD helping one household per week, putting $500 away, you're making $5,100 per week or $265,000 per year. Not too shabby. Now, let's say you build a team of 6 agents who each help one household per week save $500 per month. They're doing the same thing. You're helping one family per month. They're doing likewise. Well, in that example, you make an additional $14,400 per week in overrides. Okay. Total income, when you include your personal production and your overrides, you're at $1,013,800. Very good income. Let's look at the exact same example. Remember, they started their people off in this example at 45%, their second contract level. I'm starting our people off at the first contract level, 70%. I'm not even going to do the 85%. We're going to keep it here. Their average agent made $2,700 per week. My average agent made $4,200 per week. Same example, same family, same dollar amount. So I also did not use our top comp, which is 120%. I only used 115. So instead of like the EMD, executive marketing director, that agency G has would have made 5,100. An executive director with our company on our 115% contract made 6,900. If you build an agency, you're helping one family per week. Doing that, you're at $6,900 per week, which is $358,800 per year on your personal production. Once again, you have a team of 6 agents doing the same thing. That's an additional $16,200 per week for a total income of $1.2 million. So the difference doing the exact same thing is $200,000 difference. But here's the difference though. This is major. The average person with us is making $4,200 per week versus 27. So not only did I make $200,000 more, but my average agent made about $2,000 more in commissions, just shy of 2,000, let's say $1,500 a week more in commissions. And by the way, I didn't base it on our second contract level. I based it on the first contract level. So, okay, now before we move on, let's go ahead and address this. Very often people will say, well, there's a factor. Some carriers pay more than other carriers. So that 70% is not truly 70%. And they make it seem like it's a big difference. It's not. So I'm going to show you a couple of the main carriers that everybody uses. And we have like 50 or 60 carriers. I'm going to show you like 6 or 7 of the main carriers that you probably use at the company you're with. So if we go here, these are some of the carriers that we are with, right? So let's look at Transamerica, for example. I've got a couple of options here. Whole life product with Transamerica is a 96.97 factor. That means that our people on a 70% contract are actually on 67. That's dollar for dollar where they're at. The 85% people are on a 82% factor. So it's not quite there, but compare that. Our new guy at 67% versus a new person that might be on dollar for dollar on a 30% with agency G, for example. They got 30%. There's no factor, so they got the full 30%. That's great. We're still at more than double, right? 80% factor over there. We are at 116 here. You can get all the way up to 126%. That's what Transamerica on this particular product, the IUL Express, right? Then we got the term product here. We got a 30-year term, 78% factor. What does that equal? 78% factor equals on a 70% contract, you're still at 55%. So let's look at F&G. F&G's got a couple of great IULs. right? These are a 90% factor. As you can see here, 90% factor. Well, at a 70% contract, you're still earning 63% and 60% on the Everlast, right? And as you can see here, 85%, you're at 76 and 73 respectfully, and so on and so forth, right? So you can go ahead and just take a glance from here, right? Take a screenshot. Then we've got American Amicable. Maybe you want to sell some term or some final expense with American Amicable, great company. They've got 100% factor on the 20 and 30-year term. So 70 is actually 70. 85 is actually 85, right? We've got Senior Choice, right? Maybe you're selling final expense. Senior Choice, you're at an 87% factor. So you're not quite at 70, but you're at 61.52. You're not quite at 85, you're at 74. And so on and so forth. The top contract still pays 114%. Then we go down here, National Life Group. I love National Life Group. They've got a couple products, some term. We've got 2 terms, and we've got some IUL products. They're all on a 80% factor. That means that our new guy's starting at 56%, right? Then 68, 85% is really 68, 100% is really 80, and so on and so forth. Now let's keep going. Ethos. I know that this particular company, Agency G, really pushes Ethos, and they say that they're a fintech company. Listen, by the way, we all have Ethos. We're all fintech companies, okay? So let's go ahead and look at Ethos. Got a couple products, 80%, 80%, 77%. Here are the factors. Our 70% people are really earning 56 or 53%. Our 85% people, this is what they're earning, right? And then finally, we've got Foresters. Foresters has a great term, 90% factor, right? Which means, guess what? That means that at 70%, they are earning 63%. And finally, Experior, we have a lot of other carriers. I'm not going to get into all of the carriers, but I wanted to highlight some of the most popular ones. But Experior has its own Experior insurance products. We've got a couple of term products here from 10, 15, 20, and 30 years. All of them have a 100% factor, as you can see here. That means that your 70 is actually 70. Your 85 is actually 85, and so on and so forth. So want to make sure that we address this, because that's one of the things that they're going to come back. Oh, well, it's not a 100% factor. You got to ask about the factor, and it's really low. No, it's not. I want to show you here full transparency. This is a glance of the differences. Experior Agency G. First of all, 70% starting contracts. I believe, ladies and gentlemen, that it is absolutely not fair to start people off at 30% contracts. In 2026, I think that's not good. I'm trying to be nice here. 70% is more than fair, very, very generous. You build your own agency, you own your book of business day one, you own your agency. This is all in writing. I believe they have the same thing in fairness. Passive overrides up to 50% versus passive overrides up to 45%, but it's 7 generations, both of them. We have the tribrid model, the best of all worlds. I'll show you on the next slide. They have a 50-year-old model. They don't have a tribrid model. I'm going to show you what that is. Leads and high contracts. You could afford leads with our contracts. At 70%, 85% starting contracts, you could afford leads. You can't afford leads on 30% contracts. You just can't. You could recruit big personal producers here. You cannot recruit big personal producers at Agency G. They're not going to go for 30, 45, 50% contracts. They're just not going there. You can get all the way up to 130% on your own pen without building a team. That is not possible over there. Their limit there seems to be 80%. And there's no fees to join here. It costs $199 to join there. Here, you don't pay any fees to join. There is a monthly fee. New people that don't have their license yet pay $20 a month for their back office, their CRM, and that starts month 2. The first 30 days, they don't pay a dime. There's no join fees. So, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you guys got value from this. This is a tribrid model that I explained that Experior is. We took the best of the captive model. Feel free to take a screenshot of this. We took the best of the captive model, the great top-notch training, built-in proven systems, and so on. We took the best of the team building model and eliminated all of the things, right? Like the low starting contracts, we eliminated that. You don't own your book of business, we eliminated that. Here, high contracts, high overrides, team building, time freedom, personal growth, all of the best things of the team building we took. Then we also took the best of the independent IMO model. The top carriers, the variety, the high contracts, be your own boss, full control and independence, and we took away all the negative things. This is what sets Experior aside, ladies and gentlemen. So, anyways, with that being said, I hope you got value from this video. I would highly encourage you to contact the person that sent you this video so they could get your questions answered. And with that being said, my name is JC Rangel. I'll see you at the top or from the top. Take care.